This is a very important board meeting. It happens after a very decisive, very important year of 2010. The leaders of the European Disability Movement, meeting in Milan, 19 and 20 of February, in the framework of the board meeting of the European Disability Forum, sent a very clear message to the European institutions, to the governments of the member states of the European Union and the European society. There is no compromise between the inclusion of persons with disabilities and the financial crisis in Europe today. The UN Convention, the European Disability Strategy, all instruments we have at our disposal should work for the inclusion of persons with disabilities in society as people with full citizens' rights.
I'm also concerned, at this point in time, with the overall European-wide agenda whereby services and benefits to people with disabilities are being cut without any reference to the United Nations Convention on People with Disabilities and the general impact that these cuts are having on people with disabilities, particularly whereby there doesn't seem to be a corresponding cut to the incomes and the services that are made available to people in the mainstream community.
The UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities is not about giving persons with disabilities new rights. It is more about explaining how can you act so that you make sure that we are given the same rights as everyone else. So it is actually more telling people, politicians, civil servants, how they can guarantee that persons with disabilities, regardless of the disability and the severity of the disability, how they can guarantee them to be included in society. And it is very important that we see all conventions as one set of rights that are respected in relation to all citizens in all countries.
Bien sûr, la ratification de la Convention, c'est quelque chose de très important pour vraiment protéger les droits humains des personnes handicapées en général. Mais je crois aussi qu'il faut faire attention aux situations différentes des femmes handicapées et des filles handicapées qui normalement ne sont pas vraiment reconnues dans leur propre vie et qui n'ont vraiment pas les droits de tous les droits humains comme le reste des personnes.
As you notice, in Europe, people are traveling from one country to another. They are on the move. They are seeking for job opportunities, would like to have some work experience, would like to sell their expertise, going to another country to get their diploma. The European Union internal market provides for every citizen, every European citizen, to move freely within Europe, provides for free movement of persons, goods, services and capitals. That's what they would like to guarantee. But are disabled people guaranteed for these rights? Of course they should, because they are also European citizens. But are they able to exercise these rights? That's another question. This year campaign is about free movement of persons with disabilities all across Europe. Within this framework, we would like to have European Accessibility Act to regulate the accessibility criteria all across Europe. We would like to have a European mobility card to ease the movement of persons with disabilities all across Europe. We need alliances to this goal. We need very committed alliances. We need concrete tasks, concrete results. That's the only way how freedom of movement for persons with disability would be a reality.
Well, today the discussion was mainly focused on the practical way of being able of influencing the the implementation of the strategy as well as the implementation of the UN Convention. And so the proposal was to adopt an action to propose to the Commission to have a disability committee which would be based on the existing high-level group on disability led by the European Commission, transformed in an official committee with the participation of European institutions and EDF.
On a eu vraiment des discussions ouvertes, sans tabou, et je trouve que c'est comme cela qu'on peut avancer parce que Yanis l'a pointé. On a tout évoqué sans se sentir contraint. Il y avait vraiment une clarté dans les échanges. Et donc, si je peux épingler quelques points, peut-être pas tous, hein, mais je vais retenir au niveau de la stratégie européenne, et bien par exemple, cette décision que l'on prend de vouloir mettre en place un comité européen des personnes handicapées qui remplacerait ce groupe de haut niveau. C'est quelque chose d'important parce que ça veut dire que c'est vraiment l'implication des personnes handicapées. Ne reprenons peut-être pas, malgré que ça va alimenter, ça va être vraiment le fond de notre travail, cette convention au niveau des personnes handicapées. C'est évidemment ce suivi, cette mise en place, c'est une mobilisation importante. Je pense qu'on ne mesure peut-être même pas toujours à quel point nous allons mobiliser notre énergie là, avec des allées et venues, probablement des petits couacs. Nous allons apprendre à travailler là-dessus. L'enjeu du Parlement européen de la personne handicapée pour 2012, oui, effectivement, c'est une manière de nouveau de focaliser l'attention et de sortir des éléments importants qui vont, je dirais, baliser le travail pour les années suivantes. Quand on voit ce que 93 et 2003 ont apporté, pas tout de suite, pas dans les 6 mois qui ont suivi, mais pour les années qui ont suivi, c'était quand même quelque chose d'important.
And more attention should be given to the more vulnerable groups in our world. And we mean women and girls with disabilities, we mean people with high need of support, persons with intellectual disabilities, Down syndrome, autism, etc. The fight is not easy. We need to mobilize our forces in all member states to make sure that there is a full correlation between the rights enshrined in the Convention, the commitment made in the European Disability Strategy, and the practical use of those rights in everyday life. Nothing about persons with disabilities without persons with disabilities.